Good evening, everyone. It's Water Wednesday. Thank you to everyone who is joining us tonight and everyone who will join us and watch this later after we've already finished with the broadcast tonight. So tonight we've got several things to talk about. It's very exciting. We're getting closer and closer to the election, and this may be the second to last, which makes it, I guess, the penultimate Water Wednesday broadcast before you have the opportunity to vote for me. Tonight, I was actually hoping that I would have gotten my sample ballot in the mail by now. I know that they were mailed a few days ago, but it has not arrived in my mailbox just yet. The plan was I was going to walk through that with you, but I don't have it yet. So hopefully by next week, we will have it. We can walk through the ballot together, and we can talk about who to vote for and why. So tonight, instead, what I'm going to do is talk to you about some things that are going on with the campaign, as well as, I don't know if you've noticed, but 6 days ago, a news story dropped that focused on Vallecitos Water Board. And as it turns out, the Vallecitos Water Board is involved in a lawsuit, and it's a very interesting lawsuit. And we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. We're going to talk about what it's about and sort of the context as I understand it. I have limited access to behind the scenes information. I'm a layperson, but I think you might find compelling what I've been able to pull together. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Tonight, though, we are going to talk about my candidacy because it's getting closer and closer to the election. It's really exciting. So we've been working hard since April, and we've been running a grassroots campaign. We have been raising some money, $50 here, $25 here, $20 here, $10 here. And we have been talking to voters. We've held a number of street and greets. We actually have another one coming up tomorrow night on Marigold Way in Discovery Hills. We're really excited about that one. Starts at 6. And it's been just a really interesting way to meet voters, a creative way to meet voters, because can't really knock on doors right now. Ordinarily, we would be knocking on doors. We actually would have already passed through the entire district, knocking on every door. But we are limited in our capacity to do that with COVID-19. So we've been holding street and greets. We have been doing no contact lip drops, which if you are interested in doing that, maybe you want to get some exercise, maybe you want to get some of your steps in. It's a great way to do it. I have logged between 15 and 18,000 steps daily for like the last week and a half. So it's a great way to get some exercise. It's also a great way to see some of our great neighborhoods in District 5. Zigging and zagging in and out of streets, you get to see some beautiful homes and some beautiful gardens. People are starting to decorate for Halloween, so that's really fun to see too. So if you'd like to help with that effort, it's much appreciated. You can reach out to me on my Facebook page, or even you can comment here in the webcast. So tonight, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to share my screen in just a minute. Let me just do that right now. And we will go through some of the same content that I typically go through whenever I do these, because they are designed to stand alone, just in case this is the first one that you've seen. So just give me a moment. Let me share my screen. Some of the information is redundant, as I said, because these are designed to stand alone, but they also work well together. So if you've been watching several of these, then you know a lot of the things that I've talked about. All right, let me share this. Everything seems to be going a little bit slowly tonight, but that's all right. Okay, trying to share. Okay, and just a reminder, that's actually not the right presentation. Let me try again. Sorry about that. As a reminder, when I am sharing my screen, I can't see if you are typing in questions. I can only see that after I stop sharing my screen. So, but still continue to type in those questions. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. So tonight, we're going to be talking about the lawsuit. We're going to be talking about the campaign. I am going to revisit some of the information about voting because I went through that a little bit fast last week. Last week was such a tough week, and we had so many things that we were talking about. We were talking about the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We were talking about the death of Breonna Taylor. We were talking about the death of one of our students in our community, and it was just an all-around really, really hard and sad and emotional week. So I wanted to revisit the voting information just in case you needed a refresher on that. But first, as I have said in many weeks in the past, I am starting this broadcast with a land acknowledgement, and I have been doing this for several weeks now. I feel like it's the right thing to do. I feel like it also centers us to appreciate the awesome responsibility that we have living on this land. So I'll read this land acknowledgement now. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory and homelands of the Luiseño Payam people. Cal State University San Marcos and surrounding areas are still home to the 6 federally recognized bands of the La Jolla, Pala, Palma, Pachanga, Rincon, Saboba, Luiseño Payam people. It's also important to acknowledge that this land remains the shared space among the Kupanga-Wisham, Kupeño, and Kumeyaay and Ipe peoples. We acknowledge that we are guests on traditional, unceded Luiseño Payam land. So I'd like to share with you also that I have a, whoops, okay, didn't mean to go back to the beginning. Okay, here we are. I do have an endorsement update. And one of the great things about endorsements is that it tells me as a candidate that these people have faith in me and that they're depending on me to do the right thing. And whether it's an individual, whether it's an organization, I value these endorsements and I share them with you because maybe you have an affinity for these types of clubs or organizations, or maybe you know someone who has endorsed me. And that might help you think about considering me as a candidate and worthy of your vote. So tonight, I am very proud to share with you that I have received the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council endorsement. And I am a former union member. I believe very strongly in employees' right to collectively bargain. And I am, as I have talked about on numerous occasions here, part of my plan, part of my platform for the Water Board is bigger than water. It's to promote community and it's to stimulate our economy. And one way to do that is to partner with other institutions and other industries in our area, other governments, the school board for secondary education, Palomar College, partnering with these institutions and making sure that we have a pathway for our youth to become skilled and trained, and so that they can get good jobs here in San Marcos with Vallecitos, so that folks that have lived here their whole lives, maybe they think it's a great place to live and they want to raise their family here, but it's expensive. So we need good jobs. So that's part of my plan, and it fits. It fits right in with with working with unions, because we need skilled and trained operators to perform our repairs, to make sure that our water is safe. So I'm just thrilled that I have the endorsement of the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. I talked about Run Women Run last weekend. And of course, I have the Sierra Club endorsement. I'm the only candidate that has that endorsement. So a little bit about my platform. I'm being asked repeatedly, well, it's great that you want to run for Water Board, but what are you going to do? What do you stand for? So these are the pillars of my platform. And each of them can be explained in 2 or 3 supplementary sentences that I have talked about for many weeks. But these are sort of the 4 pillars of my platform. I stand for providing affordable, quality, reliable water for you, the ratepayer. You and me, we're the ratepayers. I've talked about that a lot. I'm going to talk about it again tonight. But affordable, quality, reliable water. I do not believe that we as ratepayers should be subsidizing development. And we are. Part of our bill subsidizes development. There's a backstory to that, which I will talk about further maybe next week. But in a nutshell, the decisions made by the board have given developers breaks. And They have reduced the amount that developers have to pay or supposed to pay to develop in our area. And the money has to come from somewhere. It's expensive to operate the district. Where does the money come from? Well, it comes from us. We have to subsidize. We have to make up that difference. We are subsidizing development right now. The rates just went up in February, and I just learned that the board voted to increase rates again, but not until after the election. Isn't that convenient? So the rates keep going up. We're subsidizing development. I am not taking any developer money. I am taking donations from my friends and my family and people that believe in me, people in the community. As I just mentioned, partnering with schools and trades for water operator training jobs to provide good local jobs, stimulate our economy, help put people to work, and goodness knows we need that right now. There are so many people that are struggling. Finally, in my background, I am a scientist. I have been a scientist. I defended my dissertation back in 2001. I've been a scientist for a while. And as such, I've spent the better part of the last 2 decades analyzing and looking at really complicated scientific concepts. I believe science should inform our decisions. And I know how to look at something critically. That's part of the benefit that I have from my experience. I'm curious. I think like a scientist. I want to know the answer, and I'm not afraid to ask. So I think that science should inform our decisions, not special interests, not doing favors for the people that donated to our campaigns. That's what's been going on the water board. And I have none of that. So science, not special interests when making decisions. Finally, are you struggling with your water bill? A lot of people are. There are over 1,400 delinquent water bills right now at Vallecitos. And this program, the special case or special care program, I've heard it called both things, has been something that the Vallecitos Water District has been promoting sort of softly for months now to help people. And a handful of people have been able to take advantage of it. I don't know if that's because a lot of more people have tried and they've been turned away, or if people just don't know about it. So I'm trying to promote it here because I know that there are people that are still struggling. There are people still getting sick. There are people that are still dying. So there are also people still losing their jobs and they can't pay their water bills. So if you are struggling and it's due to COVID-19, you can call. You can call and ask Vallecitos if it's possible to waive your late fee. The phone number is 760-744-0460. Ask to speak with customer service. Be kind to the person in customer service. It's not their decision whether or not you are considered for the program necessarily. So be kind and try to take advantage of this program if you're struggling. Okay, so last week we talked about voting, and traditionally November the 3rd has been the election day for this election cycle. However, due to COVID, there have been some modifications, and I have had the privilege of sitting through the Registrar of Voters voter presentation about the modifications that the Registrar of Voters is making to help San Diegans vote. I've sat through that program several times, and I have every confidence that the Registrar of Voters is going to do a very good job making sure that people's votes are counted, making sure that votes are tracked. So I want you to know that I have confidence in that process. Here are some dates that are really important. So as I mentioned, sample ballots were mailed out, or some folks got them by email. I was hoping to get mine by paper so that I could actually have it in my hand so that I could walk you through this. I don't have it just yet, hopefully next week. But those were supposed to go out on September 24th, and I do have confirmation from several friends that they did receive it by email. October the 5th, this is the first day that you can vote in person in San Diego County. But here's the catch. You have to go to the Registrar of Voters office, which is downtown. It's near the county offices. So you can vote in person on October 5th. October 5th is also significant in that that's when the ballots are mailed to every registered voter in California. So not from San Diego County, of course, but October 5th is the California date where the ballots are mailed. So watch your mail. Watch your mail 6th, 7th, 8th. That's about the time that you should be getting your official ballot. October 6th, ballot drop-off locations will be open beginning on October 6th. So where do you drop off your ballot? Well, that is going to be, that information will be available to you on your ballot when you get it. So have a look at your ballot, because it may not be the usual place that you have dropped off in the past. So make sure that you're aware of that. October 19th, that is the deadline by which you must register. So let's say you moved. We've had a couple of folks move into our neighborhood in the last week or two. Maybe you moved, maybe you changed your name. You must fill out a new voter registration form by October 19th if you want to vote in this election. So that's a really, really important deadline. And how you go about that, where you have to go, that is all on the Registrar of Voters website. And I highly encourage you to visit that website. It's got a lot of information. It's very thorough, easy to navigate, and you can find out there. Now, here are some of the changes that are new this year because of COVID-19. So traditionally, you could vote in person at the polls on election day. However, October 31st is the first day during this election cycle that you can vote in person. And you may not be able to vote at the place that you have traditionally gone to in the past. So there are these new places called super polls. There are going to be 235 of them. They are going to be open beginning October the 31st from 8 to 5. They'll be open October 31st, November 1st, and November 2nd from 8 to 5. Then on election day, you can vote during that day as well. So you'll have 4 days now that you can vote in person, but keep in mind, it may not be the place that you have traditionally gone to vote. You may encounter lines because these super polls are going to be consolidated to try to reduce the risk of COVID-19 spread. So be prepared. Maybe take a friend so that if one of you has to go find a washroom or something like that, the other one can stand and hold your place. Take snacks. If you have to take your children with you, make sure that you take snacks. Or if you need to take diapers, make sure that you take diapers to change your children. So just be prepared. You might have to wait in line, but hopefully it will go smoothly. Hopefully the lines won't be too long. I think by expanding the in-person voting from 1 day traditionally to now 4 days, that the lines will be shorter. December 3rd is the certification of election. So that is the deadline by which the election results must be certified. So that's some important information. All of this is found on the Registrar of Voters website. That's where I got this information from. And their campaign, Vote Safer San Diego, they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, and you can consult their website. You can call them too. They're very responsive. Every time I've called the Registrar of Voters for any reason, they're very responsive. They take their jobs very seriously, and they do a fantastic job. So I encourage you to call them if you have any specific questions not covered here. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about the lawsuit that Vallecitos has found itself in, or that Vallecitos has filed. And it centers on the desal plant in Carlsbad. Now, if you've watched one of these before, you've heard me say that about 18% of our water comes from the desalination plant in Carlsbad. Desalination is an environmentally, energetically expensive process. It has pros and cons in that it is, we are taking water from a less finite supply than the source of snowpack, which is where we import our water from. However, the desal plant is environmentally questionable. This particularly large plant, it does have some practices about it that are questionable. I will tell you about them. So when the water is taken from the ocean, It's sort of, as you can imagine, it's sort of sucked in. A lot of wildlife actually get sucked in as well. And it's not, it's not typically large marine mammals, but it can be, and it can be marine reptiles. It can be lots of fish. It can be microscopic. It can be algae. And the ethics of that are something for debate. So a lot of water gets sucked in. It's not necessarily discriminatory whether or not it kills marine life. That does happen. It's not rampant, but it does happen, and there's a lot of marine life that dies so that we can get water from the ocean. The water is processed. All of the salt and the other particulates are filtered out, and then it's ejected back into the ocean. And so it forms this sort of hyper concentrated brine. And my understanding, having talked with several environmental groups, is that brine sort of sinks down to the bottom of the ocean, and it's like a super concentrated solid of brine with these particulates. And that can wreak some havoc on the marine environment, the microcosm, and things like that. Smaller desalination plants obviously don't have this same environmental footprint as the desal plant in Carlsbad. So, there are good things about the desal plant, and there are not so good things. And we also don't necessarily have energy efficient ways to run this plant. So there's room for improvement. There is room for improvement to get our water from the desal plant if we continue to do that at Vallecitos. I will tell you what Vallecitos says about the Carlsbad desal plant is that it is a higher quality of water. It's free of salt. These are listed here. I'm not going to read it all to you, but it is, the messaging line is that it is a higher quality of water, and that may be the case. But I think what is debatable is that we have to think about the environmental impact of the desal plant. So I'm telling you all this because I'm teeing up what we're going to talk about next, which is the lawsuit that Vallecitos is involved in regarding the desal plant. So the desal plant, the water that we get from there, again, it's about 18% of our water. The water is it's not cheap. In fact, we pay a premium for it. And, as you can imagine, there are costs that need to be covered for the withdrawal of that water and the pumping of the water to San Marcos. However, it came to the attention of Vallecitos, and it was written about in the Union Tribune a few days ago on the 24th, that apparently and I've got a link in the first bullet, but the Vallecitos Water District filed a lawsuit alleging that the San Diego Water Authority overcharged by nearly $6 million for desalinated water that was never delivered, despite an agreement to construct a pipeline for that exact purpose. So imagine that you went to the grocery store and you wanted to buy bottled water, and you bought Evian or whatever bottled water there was, and you pay a premium for that. You pay a premium for that water. It's cheaper than the water that comes out of your tap. But imagine if you got home and all of the little seals on the cap had been broken, and it came to your attention that, in fact, that water was just regular water. Someone had just filled it up in the bottle. And you thought that you were paying for premium water, and you paid that price, but that's not what you got. So that's sort of an analogy of what has happened here with Vallecitos and the desal plant. A little bit of history. In 2017, the Water Authority told Vallecitos that there were, quote, some areas of possible concern with the connection that would require some repairs. And just to backtrack slightly, so the desal plant went online in 2015. And I'm not exactly clear on the timeline, but I believe somewhere in 2015 is when Vallecitos started drawing water from the desal plant. But in 2017, it became apparent that there were some errors or some repairs that needed to be made. Vallecitos alleges that it offered to make the repairs, but that offer was rejected. I haven't heard any follow-up about that, but it looks like beginning 2015, Vallecitos started drawing the water from the desal plant. 2017 rolled around. There are some repairs that need to be made. Vallecitos said, okay, well, we'll make them. And I guess those were rejected, according to this news article. The complaint centers around this, which I am just shaking my head about. The water authority, and so this is Vallecitos suing them, the San Diego County Water Authority, alleging that the water authority, San Diego Water Authority, did not inform Vallecitos that the direct connection would be shut down indefinitely, presumably to make those repairs. Repairs needed to be made, a switch is flipped, the direct connection is shut down, meaning that the water that was sent to Vallecitos from the desal plant, and I'm not completely clear about this, either was not desalinated water, it was a water from somewhere else, or we just didn't get the water. Either way, that's problematic. So Vallecitos alleges that it was delivered regular treated water. Okay, so that answers that question. The water was delivered, but it was not the higher quality water that Vallecitos was expecting and paying for over the next 16 months. That is more than a year. That is almost a year and a half. Vallecitos was delivered regularly treated water for the next 16 months, yet was charged the premium desalinated rate, resulting in nearly $6 million in overcharging. So let that sink in for just a few minutes. More than a year went by before it was found out that the water that you and me were paying for wasn't exactly what we thought it was. I am not trying to point a finger tonight because this is very complicated, and I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but this is a problem. And I think everyone will agree to that. And that's why I agree with the lawsuit. I'm glad that a lawsuit is going forward, but I cannot get my head around why 16 months elapsed before anyone knew that the desalinated water was not being provided. So why didn't anyone detect it? That's a huge question. Why didn't anyone detect it? And it's not necessarily the job of someone on the water board to detect this. However, I spent about 30 minutes trying to think about this tonight, and I thought, well, if I were on the water board and I had certain tools available to me without getting into the weeds of how people do their jobs, if I could use publicly available documents, would there be anything that's available to me that might raise some red flags? And I came up with an answer, and the answer is yes. So if I can do that as a member of the public, why didn't anybody on the board do that? Why didn't anybody at Vallecitos do that? Or maybe they did. Maybe they raised the question and their concerns were dismissed. I don't know. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but I don't know. So we have available to us the water reports, the water quality reports. These are on the Vallecitos website. They come out every year. I put together a little timeline here, and looking at this, it's not even important that you see sort of what is on the y-axis of what all of these numbers mean. It's not important. You can go back in and wonk around with this if you'd like, but just looking at this, comparing the water reports over the time period that I discerned from that article that I just talked to you about. Beginning in 2015, we start receiving desalinated water. Here is, you can see that. So this is page 4, I believe, of I'm showing you homologous columns across the different water reports for 4 years. 2015 is when we started receiving desalinated water. I looked at the 2014 report. There's no column for the Carlsbad desalination plant. So 2015 is when we started receiving desalinated water. So looks like, the ND means not detected, NA means not measured. These numbers, again, you don't have to really know what all of these mean, but just sort of bear them in mind. 2016, the next year, we're still getting our water from the desal plant. Just doing a quick check. I, as a layperson, I don't know if this number 0.65 and this number 0.04, and you'll have to take my word for it. On the y-axis, all of the measures on this side are the same across the years. I didn't do a complete proofread. I sort of spot checked it, and they looked like they were the same. But we're not going to just point out. We're not just going to pick out one of these measures anyway. We're going to look across the board. So, looking here, we have not detected versus 1.3, not detected 1.6, 1.2. That doesn't seem like that's too far off. Here's 0.9, 1.45. Then we have, something that's starting to show up here. Maybe this was the first year that they started measuring it. 0 to 28.61, 10.19. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Then, according to the article, the best I can surmise, sometime between 2016 and 2017 was the time that the direct connection was shut off. However, we're still paying for desalinated water. All right, here's 2017, and here is the same column from the desal plant. Looking across here, I don't know if 48 here and 6.2 is a big difference there. Just looking at it, it seems like it is. I don't know if it's within the margin of error or not, though, because I'm not as facile with these types of tests as someone else might be. But, that's a big difference. Going down here, you have 0.746, 0.7, you have 0.5, 2.2, you have 0 to 28.61, and then you have 0 to 3.56. You have 10.19, and you have 1.59. So, looking at this column versus the 2017 column versus the 2016 column, comparing that to the 2018 column, remember it's supposed to be 16 months, so that's over a year. So at some point, let's say if it's mid-2016, mid-2017, plus some, maybe almost into 2018, then you're still going to be seeing the effects of not having the desal water in 2018. And if you have a quick look over here, you can see, these numbers look comparable, particularly here, 3.56, 1.21 to 2.64, 1.59, 1.85. Over here, we had 0 to 28.61, 10.19. So I'm asking the question, are these meaningful differences? Is it just coincidence that the time during which we were supposed to be receiving desal water, but we weren't, and the time that we were receiving desal water, that some of these numbers, at least to my layperson's eye, they look really off. So are these differences, are they within the standard error of the mean? I don't know, but somebody should, right? And if they are not different, then we know when we were receiving desalinated water, we know when we weren't, then why do we need to pay the price for this water? You can't really have it both ways, right? So if there are meaningful differences, then why didn't anybody notice? If there aren't meaningful differences, then why are we paying for this water? Somebody should be asking that question. And Again, it's not necessarily a board member's job to do that, but it doesn't seem like other people did in a timely manner. So perhaps having someone with a scientific background or who's curious, who can think critically, is a good idea, so that, maybe someone could have asked a question earlier. Now, about the $6 million, I don't know if the San Diego Water Authority is going to recover that, or pay that out. But I will say this: it seems like we are owed some money. We are owed a lot of money, and it looks like someone was just seeing a black screen. I hope that I didn't not share. I hope I didn't not share my screen appropriately, but I guess I'll go back and watch it. And if I didn't do it properly, then maybe I'll re-record it. But I'm happy to take questions. I don't know the answer. I see there's a handful of people on. In the past, some of you ask questions and I'm appreciative. Some of you don't, so I don't know who you are. If you're someone that I'm running against, welcome. I hope you can take something from this as well. But ask me a question. I don't know the answer to this specific question, to this specific issue, but somebody was asleep at the helm. And I don't know who it is. I don't know where the breakdown in communication was, but there needs to be, not only does the money need to be recovered and dispersed to us, the ratepayers, but there also needs to be some process analysis to figure out what happened, where the breakdown was, why it wasn't detected for 16 months. That just seems, that seems ridiculous, frankly. So ask me a question. Anybody? And if you don't have a question, and if it turns out that I did not share my screen properly, then I will go back and re-record this, or I will put the I'll put the presentation on my Facebook page, and that way you can watch it. But I think just, I spent 30 minutes, 45 minutes looking at the reports, and again, I'm not a chemist, I'm not a water biologist, but just looking at what's available to us as the public, I noticed some differences that seem like they're not within the margin of error, but I don't know what stats were run, and I don't know exactly how the analyses are done. But if I can notice that as a layperson, then certainly people whose job it is to do that testing, and people whose job it is to oversee it, that is the board, should have noticed. And ask some questions, maybe just try to figure it out. Again, I support the lawsuit. There needs to be money recovered, and it needs to be dispersed to the ratepayers. The Vallecitos Water Board has $100 million in the ratepayer fund. And as you've heard me talk before, there are two sources of income for the Vallecitos Water District. There's the ratepayer fund, there's the developer fund. Thanks to decisions made by members of the board, sitting members of the board, that received a lot of money from developers and campaign contributions, who then did favors for developers. The developer fund is very low. In fact, there are estimates that it's a $14 million deficit. That's one of the sources of income that's been completely depleted. The other source is the ratepayer fund, and that's got $100 million in it. And that's a lot compared to other water districts in the area. That's a lot of money. We have a lot of money there. We should be able to absorb any talked about rate increase. And again, I will say the board has voted to increase the rates again, but conveniently they said not till after the election. So they've already increased the rates once this year in February. I don't know if you remember. And I'm not just talking about, it's summer, so I'm watering my garden more, or I'm filling up my pool, or I'm, washing my car more. It's not an increase due to increased volume. It's the actual rate that we pay per unit of water was increased in February, and they have voted to increase it again. And I don't think that's right. We have a lot of money. We should be able to absorb it. A lot of people are hurting. And frankly, when there has been some financial irresponsibility, not noticing that we were paying a premium for water that we didn't get for 16 months. I'm having a hard time getting my head around that. And again, I'm not pointing fingers specifically at individuals, other than, this is the board's job. Board's job to oversee the district and to make sure that it's financially viable. And either they weren't asking the right questions, or the right processes aren't in place to detect something like that that has cost us, the ratepayers, a lot of money. A question has come in. Shall we start an inquiry to solve these questions? We want answers. I want answers too. I'm not exactly sure. I think going to the next Vallecitos meeting is a great start. And it's a Zoom meeting, and you can raise your hand to speak when there are things. They do have an agenda, and they have sort of a prescribed process where you can only talk about certain things during certain times if it's on the agenda or not on the agenda. But there is a period of public commentary before board meetings, and I will put the next meeting date on my calendar. It's the first and third Wednesday, so I will put that on my Facebook page so that people, if they want to go, they can go. Let's see. Can there be a COVID-19 relief fund? Well, it's not really a relief fund that they have going on right now, but I think that that's a good idea. There are close to 1,500, or like 1,450 delinquent accounts right now, and people are hurting and people are struggling, and it's good that there's the possibility to waive late fees, but I would argue that that's not compassionate enough given the demand and given the amount of reserves that we have, $100 million. And that, I don't know all the ins and outs of where all that money goes. I'm not privy to that information as a layperson, but we have more reserves than most water districts do. And we also have populations of folks that are hurting. So maybe there could be. I think that's a good suggestion. Any other questions? And I'm sorry if I showed you a black screen the whole time. I tried to click on a different button that now enables me to share my screen, and I may have clicked on the wrong one. So I apologize. I will try to re-record this. I see there's a handful of people joining. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions for me? Or are you running against me? That's okay. That's all right. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you for joining. I try to keep these around 45 minutes, just because a lot of us work, a lot of us are on Zoom calls for a lot of the day. I have a few things that I want to tell you about. Number one, I have a day of action coming up on Sunday where you can go and do a no contact lit drop to various neighborhoods in the district. It's fast, it's easy, it's a great way to get your steps in. So I have that coming up on Sunday. It starts early-ish in the morning. It's early enough where you can get it out of the way and have the whole rest of your day. We're starting at 8:30. If you want to participate in that, just contact me and I will tell you everything you need to know about that. Sunday night, I am having a super fun fundraiser, and it's going to be great. I am going to, our campaign is partnered with Double Peak Brewery, which is a local brewery. And the way it works is you buy a ticket, and then I or someone who is working on the campaign will deliver to you a 4-pack of mixed canned beer from Double Peak. We're going to have someone from the brewery walking us through a tasting of this beer. And not only that, but in the interim, we are going to be doing some trivia questions. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I have a host committee of Councilmember Randy Walton, and Helix Water Board President Mark Grasick. So they're going to be providing, I might even be able to see, or might even be able to get them to read some of the trivia questions. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So that is Sunday night, and you can see that event on my Facebook page. Please join. The price is very reasonable. And you know what? There are 2 tiers. You can get the price with the beer or the price without the beer. And either way, I'm very appreciative. You can still join for the trivia. You just won't get a 4-pack delivered to your house, and you won't be participating in that tasting. But you could still BYOB. You could bring your own. You could bring wine, whatever. It'll still be fun. So I wanted to tell you about those things. We are looking for volunteers, and we could use your help. I spent a lot of today putting out signs. I have signs all over the district. I'm going to put out some more tomorrow. It's time consuming, and it was so hot today. So I'm hoping to get out early tomorrow morning before it gets too hot. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. I apologize if I didn't share that presentation properly. I will go back and look and see if I can try to make it better. I will see you next Wednesday. We will be walking through the ballot next Wednesday, and you'll get to see where I am in the placement of the ballot. I mean, out here in California, we have really long ballots. We'll talk about the ballot propositions. We can talk about other candidates, but mainly I want you to see where I am in the ballot, because I'm not at the top. And you're going to have a lot of stamina to get all the way down to where I will be. So I will see you next Wednesday. Thank you for joining. Hope you have a great week, and hang in there. We're getting close to the election. I appreciate your help. I appreciate your attention. Have a good night.